I didn't yell. I didn't slam any glasses. The moment my mother told my wife, "You aren't part of this family," I simply took my wife's hand and let the bank take their $1 million home. For 7 long years, I was the golden son, quietly keeping the entire family afloat. When my father's printing shop failed, I absorbed the debt. When the ancient roof on their colonial home leaked, I cut a check for $12,000 without blinking. My parents were incredibly proud of my success, or rather, proud of what my money could do for them. But there was a catch. My wife, Chloe. Chloe is a pediatric nurse, kind, brilliant, and raised entirely in the foster care system. She didn't come from old money. She didn't have a prestigious family tree. And to my mother, Victoria, that made her completely invisible. For years, it was death by 1,000 cuts. At Sunday dinners, Victoria would talk right over Chloe. When Chloe brought homemade apple pie for Thanksgiving, Victoria quietly hid it in the pantry and served a stale, store-bought one instead. Every single time I confronted my mother, she would sigh, pat my arm, and say, "Oh, Lucas, you are just being overly sensitive, honey. Stop looking for problems." So I let it slide, trying desperately to keep the peace. That was my biggest mistake. The absolute breaking point came during my parents' 40th wedding anniversary gala. It was a massive, elegant affair. 60 guests, a catered ballroom, a live jazz band, the whole 9 yards. And yes, I paid for every single cent of it. Halfway through the evening, the professional photographer called for the grand family portrait. My brother, his country club wife, their kids, my parents, Chloe, and I all lined up. We smiled. The camera flashed. It felt perfect. But then, Victoria clapped her hands, her smile turning ice cold as she looked directly at my wife. "All right, now let's do one with just the real family. The bloodline only, honey. Chloe, step out for a moment." The entire room went dead silent. My brother looked down at his expensive shoes. My father suddenly found the melting ice in his whiskey glass fascinating. Chloe froze, her cheeks turning bright red, her eyes instantly swelling with tears. She didn't say a single word. She just slowly started to step backward, trying to disappear. I caught her gently by the wrist. I looked at my mother and asked, "What did you just say?" Victoria didn't even flinch. She calmly adjusted her pearls and whispered, "Lucas, do not make a scene. It is for the legacy album. We want it traditional. She just doesn't fit the picture." I didn't yell. I didn't slam any glasses. I looked at Chloe, saw the absolute heartbreak in her eyes, and felt something deep inside me snap completely. I looked my mother dead in the eyes and said, "You're right. She doesn't fit." I grabbed Chloe's coat, took her hand, and we walked right out of that crowded ballroom. My mother called after us, laughing nervously, assuming I'd come back. We didn't. The very next morning, I called my accountant. I instructed him to immediately cancel the automatic monthly wire transfer that paid the steep mortgage on my parents' home. I also canceled my father's emergency credit card. 4 weeks later, the storm hit. My dad called me, sounding absolutely breathless, his voice shaking. "Lucas, the bank just notified us that our mortgage payment bounced. What is going on?" I leaned back in my office chair and said calmly, "Nothing is going on, Dad. I stopped paying it." There was a massive, heavy silence on the line. Then he stammered, But we can't afford that payment on our pension. We will lose the house." I replied, "Well, you'll just have to figure that out." 2 days later, Victoria called. She didn't apologize. Instead, she tried to guilt trip me, weeping dramatically about family duty and how I was abandoning my own blood. I waited until she was completely out of breath. Then I asked a single quiet question. "Is Chloe family, Mother?" Silence stretched for 5 long seconds. Then she whispered, "Lucas, that is completely different. I cut her off. "No, it isn't. And since she isn't family, my money isn't either." I hung up the phone. 14 months passed. They lost the home and downsized. Yesterday, I saw my mother at a market. She stepped toward us looking desperate. I just turned my back, held my wife's hand, and walked away.